Assalamu alaikum, I'm Mubashir Chaudhry and I am on Parliament Hill at the top of the stairs here in Ottawa, Canada, Ottawa being the capital of Canada. And I am on Parliament Hill. Behind me are the Parliament buildings where laws are tabled, laws are passed, and laws are put into effect. Today we have a very special show on Real Talk Canada. The topic is loyalty to one's homeland. So you'll see some very special guests talking about what they think is loyalty to one's homeland. So, real stories, real issues, real views. You're watching Real Talk Canada.
Where do our loyalties lie?
So why Ahmadiyyat? They're not fanatics, they're sick.
To make a better world for everyone.
With real stories,
there's nothing that I've done differently, I've just been me.
real issues,
Is it possible to be loyal to two different countries?
real views. This is Real Talk Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Mubashir Chaudhry and you are watching Real Talk Canada. And our topic today is loyalty to one's homeland. What is loyalty to one's homeland? Well, we have an expert panel today of 4 members who I'll introduce you to shortly. But before I get to that, Real Talk Canada. And if we're doing Real Talk Canada, it's only fitting that we're in Canada's capital, Ottawa, Canada. And even better, we are in the Houses of Parliament. And right now we're in Centre Block in a beautiful room called the Commonwealth Room. And not far from me, not far from this room, in fact, is the House of Commons. And that's where the parties of Canada, the Conservative Party of Canada, the New Democratic Party of Canada, the Liberal Party of Canada, and some other parties will debate and then make the laws of this country, and that will shape the direction of this country. So it's a real honor to be in this very building, in this very hall, to Real Talk Canada. Before I get to my guest panelists, I do want to start off by going to Word on the Street.
The ongoing discussion about Muslims' loyalty to their homeland is not something that is unique to Canada. In fact, it's a theme which is mirrored across the Western world. For example, the American presidential candidate Herman Cain announced that he was so concerned about this issue that he wanted Muslims to pledge loyalty to the Constitution of the United States of America before allowing them to serve under him. On the one hand, due to the effects of globalization, we are seeing a migration of Muslims into Western countries on a previously unprecedented scale. And on the other hand, clearly there are major concerns that a culture and indeed loyalty clash is developing between Islam and the West. This was reflected in a recent poll where 56% of Canadians believe that Islam and the West were locked in an ideological struggle. All this leaves Western Muslims facing a huge dilemma. Where do our loyalties lie in the balance between our national identity and our religious identity? To help form an understanding of these issues, where better to start than the Parliament of Canada?
Hello, I'm Julian Fantino, the Associate Minister of National Defence for the Government of Canada. And welcome to one and all, and you're watching Real Talk Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, thank you for joining us. We are in front of the Parliament buildings here in Ottawa's, Canada's capital, Ottawa, Canada. It's the nation's capital, and I'm proud to be joined here by Minister Julian Fantino. Thank you so much, Minister, for joining us. It's a real pleasure to have you. You, of course, are the Associate Minister of National Defence, which is a very, very big department. Thank you and welcome to our show.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
So, the topic of today's show, what we're discussing, is loyalty to one's homeland. And before you came minister, you have a long and very stellar career in the policing industry. You were chief of police for several departments. You were commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police. And but even before that, your heritage is Italian. You came to Canada as a proud Canadian. You worked your way through the police ranks and now a federal cabinet minister for, as I said, a very prominent department here in Canada with the Conservative Party. For people, of course, Canada is a melting pot. I mean, we have people from all different cultures, race, religions, always coming into Canada on a regular basis. What advice do you have for those people to, assimilate into the country, to become Canadian, to become loyal to the country? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think primarily, we have to draw on the reasons why people chose Canada as opposed to another country.
Sure.
So I think there's already some commitment and some knowledge and some awareness of all the good things that this country affords new immigrants, certainly. And then the other thing I think we need to do is we need to ensure that people are willing to do everything they can to lend themselves, not to give up heritage, culture, tradition, but also to get into the way of life here and to contribute to the way of life. So it's important to volunteer, to help others in need, those kinds of issues. But I think that the best advice I can give is the fact that this country is a welcoming country. It's open and available to those who come here that follow the rules. They don't break the law. And I think we have to do everything we can to maintain it in a way that we don't lose all the good things that we have here, because we are the envy of the world. And we need to also educate people who come here from countries where the governments and the dictatorships are oppressive and tyrannical and all of that. We have a different way of life here. So it's also about learning all the good things that are here. And for the adults, it's an important aspect of teaching our children those kinds of very valuable lessons to learn about what Canada has to offer.
And Minister, if I can ask you about our community, the Ahmadiyya community, and of course this show is airing on MTA Muslim Television Ahmadiyya, and as you can see from the theme of our show, loyalty to one's country, we are all about that. We are all about becoming part of the fabric of this country, being law-abiding citizens, being honest workers and whatnot. We have an annual convention in Toronto, well, in Mississauga every year, where we have countless dignitaries from your party, other parties. How do you see, I guess, this particular, or using our community perhaps as an example, or specifically our community as a group that has fit in or is fitting into this country's fabric?
Well, I think the Ahmadiyya community is fitting in very nicely, and I can speak with some authority, of course, having the opportunity and the privilege to interact in my own riding up in Vaughan with the Ahmadiyya community, and having learned quite a bit about the plight of the community, the issues that have been and are being faced back home, the discriminatory practices that they've had to endure. And so I think that what I need to say is that I am very proud and pleased to see the community just become a huge part of the lifeline of Canada, and certainly in Vaughan. And we're talking about a community that is values driven. Whether it's the religious beliefs, whether it's the family beliefs, whether it's the nurturing of the community as a whole, and also the leadership in the community. I think that they are quality people, and the types of programs that are being provided to seniors, young people, families, I think that all of that is absolutely value added to our Canadian way of life. And I just want to recognize the Ahmadiyya community for the kind of contribution that it makes to what we sometimes take for granted, and that is the safety, security, and the respect for human rights that we all, I think, very much appreciate in this country.
Hi, I'm Tim Opal, Canada's Minister of State for Democratic Reform, and you're watching Real Talk Canada.
Right now I'm honored to be joined by one of their cabinet ministers, Minister Opal. Thank you so much for joining us. You're Minister of State for Democratic Reform. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, and it's an honor for me to be here with you.
Being a Sikh Canadian, how have you, can you tell me actually about some of the obstacles you face, some of the adversity, and how you overcame them and where you are now and, you know, made your way there.
You know, I was born here in Canada, so a little bit different than some people's story. But at the end of the day, you know, we don't look the same as everybody else,
Right.
and that's quite obvious.
Right.
But we do share the same values, and I think that's the important thing, that we share values, and I consider them to be Canadian values of, you know, everyone's equal under the law. That our voice should affect the change of the way government makes its decisions. You know, our ability to vote, and you know, the rights that we have and the responsibilities that we have. And for me, that's really what it's been about, and integrating into Canadian society. But at the same time, yes, we're integrating, but at the same time, you can hold your own culture, keep your own identity, and that's a great thing about Canada, that you can do both.
About that, then, maintaining the culture, how have you done it? Do you see other communities doing it? How do you see that overall?
I think a lot of it is just because of the way Canada is. I mean, Canada is a country that is open. You know, we have freedom of religion. We have the ability to be an individual, to keep your culture and celebrate it. But at the same time, we have shared common values in Canada. When we have more things about us as Canadians that we share that are the same than that are different. And I think that's what's important. That you know, I can play hockey one night and then also, you know, go play kabaddi the next night, or you know, go to a Hindi movie or something like that. You could do that in this country, and I think that's is one of the great things, and that's why we have this great balance.
Hello, my name is Kostas Menegakis. I'm the Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, Ontario, and you're watching Real Talk Canada right here from the nation's capital, Ottawa.
Member of Parliament, Mr. Kostas Menegakis, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time and being out here on Parliament Hill with me.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege for me to be here and today on Muslim television Ahmadiyya, here in the nation's capital on this beautiful day.
You had mentioned that you're familiar with the Ahmadiyya community, and we're one of the smaller sects of Muslim, but you're familiar with us. How do you see us and how we fit into, you mentioned the words cultural mosaic and fabric of the country. How do you see this community, the Ahmadiyya community, fitting into that?
The Ahmadiyya community may be small in numbers, but is a very significant community. I was very touched by the manner in which I was welcomed into the community, and not surprisingly, that we share the very same values, you know, family values, hardworking values, a belief in God, and you know, we have when you have 156 different dialects spoken, you can appreciate we have a large denominational base of faiths throughout the GTA. The Ahmadiyya community is one that is very close to its roots. I think the Ahmadiyya community can contribute tremendously to Canada. And I think it is worth saying that the Ahmadiyya community is the only community that I know in this country that returned government funds for the building of their center in Toronto because they believed that it was not proper to take government funds to build the center. That speaks volumes as to the integrity. It speaks volumes as to the deep rooted values of the community, and I was delighted, honored, and privileged to meet a lot of members within the Ahmadiyya community, and I look forward to working very closely with the community as we move forward.
Is this community, the Ahmadiyya community, doing the right things to be part of this country? Do you find the members of this community are loyal to the country? Or are we going in the right direction?
Here's what I see. I see people from the Ahmadiyya community successful in all fields. I see them in the academic field, I see them in the business field, I see them in the political field with a lot of connections and a lot of reaching out to the government leadership in all three levels of government, municipally, provincially, and federally. I think the Ahmadiyya community has got it right, they're doing it right, albeit a young community in Canada, but with a very strong plan on how to move forward. So I think it is definitely on the right track. And I'm delighted to consider myself a strong friend of the Ahmadiyya community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, MP Menegakis. We really appreciate you taking the time, appreciate your support to the community, your ear to listen to us, your advice to give us, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you. I'm always going to be accessible to the community. I want to be there for you.
And I want to say in closing that it is really an honor and a privilege to work closely with such a dynamic and vibrant new community in Canada. Thank you so much for hosting me today here at Muslim Television Ahmadiyya.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much. That was Member of Parliament Kostas Menegakis. And as I mentioned, we do have an expert panel to answer some of our questions. The topic of today's show, as I mentioned, loyalty to one's country. A very broad topic, a topic that has many answers, many opinions, and that's why we have this panel of experts here with me on my left. And I will introduce them. To my immediate left is Mr. Scott Sims, Member of Parliament for the Liberal Party of Canada, and he is from an eastern province, Newfoundland, Labrador, and his riding is in central Newfoundland. So Newfoundland is hour and a half difference in time zone from here. We are Eastern time zone here. To his left is Mr. Mubarak Nazir. He is our missionary in charge for the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam. He resides in Toronto. That's where he is based out of, and he used to be in Ottawa. We're honored to have him back in Ottawa for this segment. To his left is Mr. Jim Carey-Janis, and he is a Member of Parliament for the Liberal Party of Canada, and his riding is Scarborough Agincourt. He has been in office since 1988, and he is a very close friend to the Ahmadiyya community. He attends all the jalsas that we have, the annual convention in Mississauga, and various other functions. He's heavily involved in the community. It's great to have you, Mr. Carey-Janis. And to his left is a member of our community as well, Mr. Asif Khan, and he is the National Secretary for Public Affairs for the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Thank you for taking your time. And I know for the two members of Parliament, you're very busy. You work in this building 24 hours a day, I'm sure it seems like. So thank you for taking the time. Mubarak Saab and Mr. Khan Saab, thank you for joining us, coming up from Toronto for this, and wonderful to be here in the Houses of Parliament. Loyalty to one's homeland. What is loyalty? How do we define it? Where do we start? I'll start with you, Mr. Sims. How's that? What is loyalty to one's homeland?
I always thought for me it's been an experience of loyalty to community. As you mentioned, I'm from Newfoundland and Labrador, and we're basically a large collections of small communities all throughout the province. Like, for instance, in my area, primarily central Newfoundland, I have 195 communities. And the sense of community starts from that very small level of your community. It could be 10,000 people, it could be 500 people, it could be the smallest village, but you have this bonding together between neighbors, and that develops a strong sense of community, because we want to raise our children that is in a safe community. We want to raise our children that is one that is kind to each other, and all that gets paid back. So to me, the loyalty to one's nation is an extension of that smaller group, that community that you cherish the most, and it's spread out towards the rest of the nation, because we're all just a large collection of communities. And so it's tied up into security, it's tied up into compassion, and these are the motions that create that sense of loyalty, especially to our country.
Mr. Carey-Janis, you're from Scarborough Agincourt, which is a part of Toronto, as I said, the largest city in the country. Toronto, the biggest multicultural city in the country, if not perhaps North America. You have different nationalities there. You have yourself, your group.
You mentioned the word multiculturalism.
Right.
As we're filming this, tomorrow is going to be 40 years of multiculturalism. Back in 1971, October the 7th, Pierre Trudeau introduced multiculturalism. And although in some countries they say multiculturalism is a failure, in Canada, 40 years on, and it's probably one of the reasons that we're able to keep this country together. I see Canada as made on 4 pillars, if you want to say like a table. There was the founding nation, the Aboriginals, the Native Canadians, the First Nations, and then there was the French and the English, the 2 founding nations. But you know, that table cannot sit on 3 legs. And then the last leg is immigrants that have immigrated to this country after the big wave of the French and the English. You had Ukrainians, you had Russians, you had Greeks, you had Italians, you had Jewish, Sri Lankans, Pakistanis, Chinese, from all parts of the world. And that these people coming together, they sort of look at Canada and say, this is my country. And this is where multiculturalism sort of kicks in. And not only do we celebrate, I mean, you got the folkloric stuff that you celebrate, you've got the dances, and we go to different functions that we are, but what brings it all together, I think, as a country, and where we have the experiment that's called Canada, it still survives and it still will keep ticking for a long, long time, is the fact that Canada welcomes people from all different shores. And when you come here, yes, there's loyalty that you got. Like I'm a dual citizen, as you mentioned. There's loyalty that you have to your previous country, but in the same token, there is loyalty that you have to this country, loyalty that you have to the country that you came up, you grew up, or you were working in, you grow in your family, and you bring with you a sense of values that you have from the old country, and you bring it to Canada, and then you build on those values. So loyalty to one's country and loyalty to Canada is something that we all treasure, and we move together and we work together.
So it's something that's part of you, Jim. You're saying it's just
definitely
it's
part
the
of
type of person you are.
Well, not only me, but this is what makes all of Canada. I mean, this is the people that we are in this room.
Asif, let me ask you, you've been living in Toronto for your entire life. How are you loyal to this country, being your parents are Pakistani, you're Pakistani nationality. How are you loyal to Canada?
I think I'd prefer to define maybe my definition of loyalty to the country, and that would be service. Those that serve their country in a manner which is humanitarian and volunteer spirit, being friendly to your neighbors. That is the way that you show loyalty to your country. And it was President Kennedy that said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think if that was emulated amongst everybody who lives in the country, this would be even a better place to be.
Mubarak Saab, you're a missionary in charge here. Is that your loyalty to Canada?
Loyalty to our homeland is enshrined in the Holy Quran. We are not only loyal to this country, not only love this country because of the climate or because of the security we have or because of the opportunities we have. The sky is the limit. We love this country because it is in the Holy Quran that you should show obedience to the leaders you have elected. And Islam, the Prophet of the Muslims, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has gone a step further when he says that hubbul watne min al iman, that the love of your homeland is part of your faith. So when we show allegiance and when we show obedience and when we work hard to preserve the integrity of this country, it's not only a thank you for all the good services that we are getting over here, it is part of our faith. And we consider it's a part of our duty that this homeland, which gives us protection, it's a wonderful place. And in this country, look at the tolerance of this country, that we are, as you said earlier, taping this program in the Parliament building, in the main Commonwealth Hall.
So, sorry to interrupt, but Asif, have you found the best thing is, you mentioned, be a good person, be a good neighbor, is what you did when you're part of a country, when you're part of a team, act like the team. Has that been your philosophy? Is that what you've done to assimilate, to join in? I know you have a family. Is that what you're teaching your children as well?
I think I might have a bit of a different perspective. I was born here, so I've never considered that I needed to assimilate. I was always a Canadian. I was always loyal to this country. My heritage, and my parents are from Pakistan, originally from the Indian side. So of course there's a loyalty and a love for that place as well. So there's nothing that I've done differently. I've just been me, and being me is being a Muslim and being a Canadian. And I think that's what's allowed me to be a loyal citizen of this country.
Jim, just back to you for a second, and I'll take a question from the audience. But you're of course Greek origin. You have a strong faith in your Greek roots, obviously. You're a Canadian citizen. You're a member of Parliament. Is it possible to be loyal to two different countries?
Definitely. There's the country.
How do you do that? How do you balance?
There's the country that you were born in, or the country that is the place that you're from, and there's the country that you grow up. I mean, like when I travel, I mean, and I've traveled a lot, the first thing that I do is either visit the Canadian Embassy and the Greek Embassy and hear it from both ambassadors and to get their perspective of what it is. But however, I do want to sort of backtrack a bit and sort of like put a couple of words on the table. I know the Emir in charge said tolerance. I'd like to sort of change the tune a bit and say respect. Because if you tolerate somebody, it's like, you know, you're putting up with them. But if you respect somebody, like you're in this place, obviously you came in here because of a reason. You respect the democracy that we have, and the place itself loaned itself to you because it accepts you. And it brings you in, it brings you into the bosom. So the two words, and I'm just going to elaborate on this, is respect and accept. Okay. Those are the two words that I sort of want to leave with you for now, and I'm going to add a couple more later on.
Okay, I'm going to take your word respect then, Jim. I'm going to throw it over to the audience then. Can I just have the mic over here? And I want to ask you about respect. You're Pakistani origin, obviously. Why do you respect Canada?
The reason that I respect Canada is because it gave me the freedom that was restricted in my homeland. And
what kind of restrictions?
Basically,
and why is Canada better than where you were?
The religious practices are prohibited for Ahmadi Muslims in Pakistan.
So a lack of respect, like what Mr. Karajanis was saying?
Exactly. And I've actually seen it with my own eyes. So some people who are born here who have not been to Pakistan, maybe they have not actually seen it, but I have family members who have been killed in the name of religion. And this sort of thing is unheard of over here. And everybody's treated on the basis of humanity rather than their beliefs. And that would be the primary reason out of the many, many reasons that I have respect for this country.
Jim, as I mentioned, you've known the community, the Ahmadiyya community, for at least 20 years, if not more. Why did you come to us? I know you're involved with other communities. We're not the only exclusive one, I understand.
I thought we were the only one.
That's what he tells us. But why did you approach us, or what?
He's got the distinction that this fourth Khalifa called him his brother.
Well, I was just getting to that point.
He sometimes takes little advantage on us. Whenever
sometimes
he wants.
There's nothing but taking advantage of your family and your brothers and your sisters. There's nothing but like taking advantage and sort of, if you want to call it, I wouldn't want to use the word railroad, absolutely. But I want to go back to the word integrate, because sometimes integration is used in a term that it might not be what I think that we're meaning here tonight. Integration is that you come up, when you come into the country, automatically you integrate with what's there, and you become part of. And sometimes when you become part of, you might lose part of what you're bringing. So you might want to lose it because where you came from, it was a lot of hard times and everything else. But I think that what we need to do in Canada, and what we're trying to speak of, is integration, but also bring with you what you had behind and what you brought to this country. I mean, you're talking about the pigment of your skin, you're talking about the different dress, you're talking about the different religion. That is, I would say that in Canada, we sort of, all of us integrate. Not only does the newcomer integrate and become part and parcel, or there's a meltdown, but also once the newcomer finds the surroundings also exposed to him. And that's where the true celebration becomes of what Canada is all about. There's another word that, that I wanted to bring into the thing. When you respect and you accept, you also try to celebrate. I mean, look at this here tonight. I mean, like, you've got a Newfoundlander,
right?
You've got a Greek from the city of Toronto, speaking to South Asian Ahmadiyya community. I mean, that like, you probably figure that you'd be more comfortable speaking with, some members of parliament that we have that are from South Asians. And they're in parliament, but I mean, certainly there's a celebration here tonight.
You're not talking of the Greek debt problem,
That's a different scenario.
Do you find us loyal? Do you find the Ahmadiyya community loyal to the country of Canada?
You know what? I think that when people come to Canada, not only the Ahmadiyya, but a lot of the people that come to Canada are very loyal to this country. And you know how you find out loyalty? Look at the people that have died and given their lives over the years. I mean, you just only have to go upstairs and turn the book every morning. And you just go into the sanctuary where and you know, into the memorial chamber upstairs at the foot of the Peace Tower, and you look, and when you look through the book, you will find Greeks, you will find Muslims, you will find Australians, you would find people from England, you will find people from Scotland.
No, I know there's a lot of groups, but specifically the Ahmadiyya community. How have you found our loyalty to this?
You know what? I would never question your loyalty for 30 seconds, and I wouldn't question anybody's loyalty. There's some people that actually, you know, misuse religion and fanatism in order to take advantage of it. But not this particular community. I mean, your community is love for all, hatred for none. That was the first time that I seen the symbol in the fourth Khalifa, and I was sitting there with Madi Sab, Nazim Madi, and I was thinking, this is in England, and I said, what does that mean? He says, love for all, hatred for none. And it didn't sink in. It didn't sink in until later, when the jihadists and tried to overtake the Muslim religion. It didn't sink in that, you know, what you were going through in England and in different parts of the world, and what you're still going on through today. And certainly I think that we from Canada, working together, can provide sustainable development for nation building. Great big words, but can we help through your community, through the other communities? Can we help the countries that are, you know, emerging democracies, failing democracies, or failed democracies? Can we get them back on their feet?
Scott, I have to ask you, I can ask anyone, but I'll ask you. We're talking about loyalty to one's country, and it doesn't just have to be Canada. It could be the US, it could be the UK. Often, well, hopefully not that often, but we do hear stories of people, and they could be of any cultural descent, could be a Muslim group, but sleeper cells, you hear that. Say, for example, they're in England and they're plotting against England. What do you have to say about people like that? You know, the whole concept. I mean, that's the ultimate disloyalty, if you ask me. What do you think of that?
I think it's not only a disloyalty to your country. I think what you end up doing in that particular situation, when you isolate yourself in a beautiful community such as this, or a beautiful community in London, United Kingdom, Scotland, anywhere, when you do that, that isolation, what you're doing is you're being disloyal to yourself. Because you haven't extended your own self to anybody else, and they haven't returned that.
Right.
I once asked, somebody came to me and said, similar to what Jim said, they said, you know, I love Newfoundland, you're the friendliest people, and I asked them, I said, you know, well, a lot of places in this world are friendly. I said, why is it that Newfoundland has attained this level of special friendly? How does that work? And he said, and he was from Chicago, and he said, you know, he said, you talk to us like you've known us for years, and we just met. And I said, you know, and that is a quality. It's one that the most cynical people, maybe even the people in these cells, would say, well, that's a naive way to think. Well, if that's naive, then we should all be naive. Because naivety actually leads to peace. And within that peace, within that community, that's where you'll find the core of your loyalty. Because to rage against that in your own country, you're disloyal to yourself.
That was the first segment of Real Talk, Loyalty to One's Homeland. And we are in the Houses of Parliament in Ottawa, Canada, the nation's capital, for Real Talk Canada. We'll be right back.
Another milestone in the history of MTA. Another sign fulfilling the prophecy revealed to the promised Messiah alayhi salam. I shall cause thy message to reach the corners of the earth. By the sheer grace of Allah, MTA's broadcast can now be seen on your mobile phone anytime, anywhere in the world. Watch MTA International wherever you are with our new mobile streaming service. Simply visit www.mta.tv on your iPad, iPhone, BlackBerry or Android device and choose the stream of your choice.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Real Talk Canada. I'm Mubashir Chaudhry, and as I said, it's Real Talk Canada, and you're in Canada's capital, Ottawa, and in fact, you're in the Houses of Parliament in the Commonwealth Room here in Centre Block, and as I said earlier, not far from the House of Commons, where a couple of my guest members here, Mr. Scott Sims and Mr. Jim Karygiannis, debate being one of the parties of Canada, the Liberal Party. And so we're thrilled to be here, and thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining us. In our first segment, we were talking about loyalty to one's country, and words such as respect were thrown out there, and we were also talking about integration into society, and our panelists had some varying opinions and views, and some of our guest panelists came in with some of their opinions and some questions as well. So we want to carry on with the segment. Just quickly, I do want to give you our email address. It is realtalk@mta.tv, and our website is www.mta.tv/realtalk. So back to Real Talk Canada. Mubarak Saab, I want to ask you, being a scholar and a principal of the Jamia School, and someone that people have always looked up to. You were in Ottawa. I looked up to you as our missionary here. I still look up to you, and now you have countless other people looking up to you. Having said that, what does Islam teach about becoming model citizens in this Canadian community?
Well, Islam teaches that we should be law-abiding. We should obey those who are in authority. We should always select people who deserve our vote. I have just given my own vote in the provincial assembly, and I have voted for a Jew. Because the Holy Quran says, hand over the trust to the people who you think are worthy of shouldering the responsibilities of that trust. It's not, the Holy Quran did not say vote for a Muslim. Vote for somebody who can undertake the responsibility. And so we have a very wide spectrum where we can be beneficial. Our community has tried in different ways. For example, we have the Run for One, where we have collected thousands and thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, in order to build a hospital. We are giving blood. This 9/11, where 3,000 unsuspecting people were butchered, we consider that this is our revenge. And our revenge is to give our blood, willingly give our blood. So we've already given blood of more than 10,000 units, which will take care of about 30,000 people. So we feel that this is our community, and since we have a caliph who is divinely guided, he conducts our affairs, and he has got an advisory council. I'm one of the members of that advisory council, and he listens to us, and this is how we function and try to be good citizens, law-abiding citizens. We try to listen to our leaders, and if I may just, for the sake of Mark Twain, he's a great writer. He said, loyalty always. But loyalty to the government only when it deserves loyalty. But lucky we are that we have a government, we have elected a government that deserves our loyalty.
Exactly.
And so we are always on the side of the law-abiding.
The two people on your side may have varying views because it's a different party.
I know, but still, still, this is the greatness of this country.
Exactly. You only get the government that you vote for.
Yeah.
So, the government that you vote for.
No, absolutely.
I mean, you are either you are with it or you are against it for the next 4 years, and then you go out and you become civilly engaged. And one of the things that I guess is civil engagement is, like, do you participate in politics, and do you make a difference? Do you run? Do you vote? Do you assist? Do you volunteer? I think that is something that the community is very well known, that civil engagement. But I mean, I don't think the community has taken the next step where a candidate from the community runs for a particular office, and I think that is soon to happen. It takes about 20 years any community that comes in Canada, but I think that civil engagement in the Ahmadiyya community is very high. I mean, there's all of the Ahmadis are called to go out and participate in elections and support candidates and help candidates, and that's the greatest engagement that you can have.
I want to go to the law-abiding citizen to your left, Mr. Karagianis, Mr. Asif Khan. Run for Vaughan was mentioned. I know you're one of the pioneers of this. Tell me about this whole topic, Asif, and your view and your role in this whole issue.
So Run for Vaughan was an idea that was created out of one of the, I'm forgetting the term, but it was an event that was created out of a Jamaat function, and Run for Vaughan was an idea that came up in about 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. The city of Vaughan is the city where Beit al-Islam, the headquarters of Jamaat Ahmadiyya Canada, is headquartered. Vaughan is also a city, the largest city in Canada without its own hospital. So it was a need of the community being the citizens of the community, not just Ahmadis, the politicians, the local mayor. Everybody had this desire that there should be a hospital that is built. So what better way for our community to get involved and to say, what can we possibly do to champion this idea and take this one step further? Sure. And by putting this event together, we have been able to attract about 1,000 members each year when we do the race. And surprisingly so, more than half, and perhaps even 70% of the participants are not from the community. And they participate, they start this run at the mosque, they end the event at the mosque. And as Mubarak Nazir Saab has mentioned, we to date, I believe, have collected about $350,000 that has been completely forwarded to the Hospital Foundation. And our goal is that we want to take this event where, God willing, there'll be 5,000, 10,000 people participating, and we become the premier fundraiser for the hospital going forward. And what better way to serve your community, like I talked about before, right? And that shows your loyalty to your community or your country.
Absolutely. Just sticking with you, Asif, I mean, as I said, you're the National Secretary for Public Affairs, and you play a big role in getting guests, dignitaries, not just to the annual convention in July, but you're actively doing things, encouraging civic engagement, the golf tournament, for example. Tell me some of the things that you've done, and you've had your colleagues and other members of the Ahmadiyya community. How have you encouraged them to do their part in civic engagement?
Well, I would like to take credit for everything, but I've just been doing this for a few years. The Jamaat Canada has been established from decades ago, and a lot of work was done by Naseem Mahdi Saab in terms of putting that spirit in our Jamaat members and our community members and our youth to want to be engaged from a civic perspective. The golf is one thing that actually, he was the one who gave us the idea and said, why don't you guys start playing golf and organize an Ahmadiyya golf tournament? And I've noticed you haven't signed up, but our ninth annual Ahmadiyya golf tournament is this Sunday. And again, another example of, it's not just a tournament where, Ahmadi fellows are coming and golfing. We're bringing our friends. There's some uncles who surprisingly have been golfing in Pakistan at, the Royal golf course in Lahore, and they're very good. And what a great way to get to know your own members and then to bring your friends out, and we bring some politicians maybe next time. Jim, you golf?
Are you inviting him for Sunday?
Going to come to the front row, and just to get back to civic engagement, again, Asif mentioned things that are being done in the Toronto area by the Ahmadiyya community to show that Ahmadiyya is involved in civic engagement. Do you have any opinion on that, or any examples, or do you want to ask them any questions about that?
Well, I'll first give my opinion, then ask the question.
Sure.
Certainly the thing is adaptability is a key concept. Whenever it comes to loyalty, it's faithfulness to a certain cause. So loyalty to a homeland could be some service to the community, which benefits it, which progress the community, and the thing is it comes for it. So the thing is, loyalty comes in different images, like it's a different exhibition from every other person. Youngster loyalty might not be the same as some person loyalty who is 50 years of age. So it's quite different. I mean, Ahmadiyya Muslim community had been involved in blood drives, had been involved in food drives.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at the examples of what we've done, what the community's done.
Well, I'll say if it comes to university life, as we have like a symposium, which we call World Religious Conference, we have had many of them. And each year we have at least one in each university where their AMSA exists. And there we invite different religion background people, and we have discussions there, and it's an open forum. just like the one that we have here. So it's not an argument-based one, it's just the opinion-based one, and everyone takes positive feedback. So we are joining the bridges for the most similarities that exist between.
But are they being attended by non-Ahmadis?
Non-Ahmadis are there, yeah. Okay. There are dignitaries, there are Ahmadis, and it's a collaborative event. So yeah, the collaboration from the people counts towards the loyalty. I just have one question to the panelists, that how did it see as we define loyalty towards government and policies and obedience to the government leaders and the leaders they selected, one thing in focus we need to bring in is that, let's say if the government system is not so supportive, or if, let's say, the people are not in favor of that, let's go into the world global issues, like Libya is there, Egypt is there, protests are there. I'd just like to have the panelists' viewpoint on that, let's say the violent kind of protest, is it viable to do that, or if it's not, then what the alternative could be?
Nazir Saab?
We have the option of a legal recourse. We don't take the law into our hands. There's a legal recourse. We can always make a legal protest. But we do not take the law into our own hands. The Holy Prophet also was persecuted for so many years. He did not retaliate. He migrated. So if we feel that a place has become untenable for us to live in, and our protests, peaceful protests, are not being looked after, and we feel that we are not able to practice our religion, the option we have is, on the day of judgment, God will ask, why did you not migrate? The world was so large. Why did you not go to another place? But I dare say that this country, Canada, has got so much respect that, I have seen people coming from Pakistan and other places where their mosques were burned, desecrated, and their houses and property was looted. And they came over here and they kissed the soil. That here we have an opportunity to openly profess that we are Muslims. Jim was here at our conference, and he came to the rostrum and said, Assalamu alaikum. Now, can you imagine that in my country, I cannot even say Assalamu alaikum? So you come and have that, openness and that respect and that freedom that you feel as if, you're living in a... That is why the head of the Ahmadiyya community, the fourth head, once came to Canada, and he saw all the members of parliament and spoke to lots and lots of people. The gist of his speech was a prayer that, oh God, let Canada be the whole world, or let the whole world become Canada. So this is, I think, the greatest tribute that a religious scholar who has got a divine connection would make of this great country. So we are extremely lucky, but we have responsibilities in this country. So we have to take care of our responsibilities as well. As Asif said, that President Kennedy said, what do you give to your country? It's not what you expect from them. We have to stand, and we sing this national anthem, we stand on guard for thee. We should stand on guard for thee. Not only the territorial boundary of Canada, but we should also speak about the moral turpitude and the moral environment, that is being polluted. We should also stand for that as well. So we have a great role to play, and our youngsters, who are our leaders tomorrow, have got this great responsibility that they should see that we as honest citizens, as humble citizens, as law-abiding citizens, play our part and do the little we can to make Canada a much greater country.
Asif, you also being from the Toronto area, there's different, I won't keep repeating all the different cultures and whatnot, but we have a big Chinese community, a big Desi community, a big black community. There's a lot of different cultures, so many different multiculturalism groups. Are there too many? Are they sticking too much with each other? Are they being too cliquey? Or are they assimilating? What's your opinion of that?
You know, as Jim mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Trudeau, back 40 years ago, he adopted and started the multiculturalism, promotion of multiculturalism. And I think it served Canada well, and it has served Canada well. And I think the United Nations has been doing a study, or has finished a study, on the ability of Toronto as a city to be so multicultural and to be so peaceful at the same time. How does that work, and what are they doing differently? So I think we're doing a lot of things great, but one of the fears is that communities can get stuck in silos. And we do see that from time to time.
Sure.
And culturally, you know, we do have our sections of the Chinatown, we have, you know, Greek, Little Italy, and sorry, Jim's looking at me strange.
What about, what is it, the Peace Village?
Peace Village.
We can't forget that now.
So from even, you know, Peace Village is an example of a community that's gotten together. So,
Sure.
But we don't consider ourselves to be in a silo. Yes, we've created a community that's next to a mosque so that it's convenient for our members. But of course, I can understand how some could look at it and say, there's a silo, there's all sorts of silos that exist. The fear is, and especially when it comes to the discussion of religion, and not so much culturally, because I'd love to go and, you know, eat Afghani food or eat Greek food or eat Ethiopian food, and I can get all of that in Toronto. But what about discussing about religion? That seems to be almost a taboo topic. And you know, our community, I know, does these interfaith symposiums, and you know, I hope that these discussions, and where we share these thoughts of commonality of what our, you know, religious beliefs are, will bring us even closer together, and bring that multiculturalism thought even you know, more expressive.
Audience, I want to come to you about this, what Asif was talking about. He's talking about silos. Do you feel, I'll take Saib at the end, do you feel that maybe some people that are non-AMDs see all of us as a silo? How do you see that? Or you could bounce ideas?
I think I'm more in tune with actually bouncing an idea or a comment. Going back to something Mark Nazir Saib had indicated about Mark Twain's quote, and supporting leaders that you like or get along with. Coming from a country where on the Eid celebration, a mosque was demolished. My father was beaten to pulp, thrown in jail. My uncle, his immediate brother, younger brother, was stoned to death right in front of the courthouse, the same people that create the laws or force the laws. And coming from there, then coming to how could someone actually agree to help those leaders or follow those leaders when this is what they do? Coming to a country where somebody like Jim right here, one of our speakers, goes to Pakistan in a very tough environment, speaking for a community who he perfectly knows is persecuted. But yet he went there, he takes that step. So why would you not support such people? And that's what's happened. The civic engagement part, we as members, many times we go to our elections, either we're scrutineers, driving the elderly to get their vote casted, different things that we've been assigned, and we do that. And this is what we do to engage ourselves in that community. And then exactly what Asif has indicated, it's something that I think it's part of our culture, it's part of our group. And that religion, where he mentioned, growing up, going to grade school, we had Lord's prayers. They turned into silent prayers. Now there is no prayers. So, I mean, by the time I was out of high school, there was no such thing as prayers, period. So taking these things out, the religion has been lost. I mean, just relating to Asif's point that it's not, anyways, all the speakers that make points exactly pointing to this entire topic.
Anybody disagreeing with anything that's being said up here, or Gulzar?
It's not a disagreement. It's with regards to living inside silos. I think this image arises because of all the work that is done as a community. For example, we have Adopt a Park, blood drives. What gets overlooked is what we do as individuals. And since that is never accounted for example, when you take your kids to swimming class, when they're mingling with their other friends, when you take them to the park, when they're delivering the newspaper, you know, that's how you're assimilating your kids in the society. They're learning, they're teaching. One example is teaching your kids not to throw garbage on the streets. Because I was very young when I came to Canada, but I have that habit of putting chewing gum out of the window of the car. My daughter is 6, and she will stop me. because he has learned those habits. Then don't throw anything on the ground. Pick up the garbage. If you see something sitting on the street, pick it up, throw it in a garbage can. So these small things get overlooked, but they are being done. And if we keep a good balance, I think it's an excellent.
To be clear, I did not say that we are in silos. I said there was a fear of that could progress that way. So, and then not just our community; it's all communities.
Sorry, Scott.
That's a great illustration, actually. And that's
throwing gum out the window.
No. You don't want to do that. No. Don't do that. You can charge for littering. Yeah, no. But it is in the sense that the perception of these silos are the community work that you do. But if you bring it down to the grassroots of it, it's what you're doing is an act of kindness to people in general, and who cannot bond with that? I mean, this is why people like myself and Jim would be attracted to the Amadea community, because we see when it says love for all, hatred for none. What you say to me right now is much the same. The perception of these silos are just that. So people think that there is isolation when in fact there are not. And that is what I find, what I found was fantastic for me was the exposure. When we had an individual, Dr. Boudin, I mentioned, came to our community, we don't have a lot of immigration where we are. We never did. The big cities get, for reasons that people want to be comfortable, they want to move in with people to a new country. I understand that. So where we are, we don't have a lot. But when somebody comes in and we welcome them, they're very thankful. But what we have to understand, as someone who has been here, indigenous to this area, that they can open a door to us as well. And they show us a part of the world that is very similar to our own. So, you chose Canada, but Canada chose you too. And that's what we have to remember when we talk about silos and segregation to that extent.
Thank you so much, Scott. I guess you ended up getting the last word over Jim. So
oh my goodness!
You may not be
what happened?
Pleased about that, but at least you're part of the same party, so
yes.
It's all good at the end of the day. So I'm going to wrap up this session of Real Talk Canada. But before I do, I want to thank our four panelists. You know them well now, I would think. Mr. Scott Sims from the Liberal Party of Canada, from Newfoundland, Labrador. Thank you, and give our love to the people in Newfoundland. Mubarak Nazir Saab, the missionary in charge of the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, who's here from Toronto. Thank you very much, Mubarak Saab, always a pleasure. Mr. Jim Karajanis, Member of Parliament for the Liberal Party of Canada from Scarborough Agincourt. Jim, as Mubarak Saab was saying, one of our Khalifas called you a brother. So, brother, thank you for being here. Thank you for having us, and thank you for making arrangements in this beautiful room.
Thank you for coming. It's indeed a place to see that the Real Talk, it's the first hosting is in the capital, is the cradle of democracy of Canada. It's a great start, and I hope that it flies with, it just flies with colors.
Thank you, Jim. And finally, Mr. Asif Khan. Asif is our National Secretary for Public Affairs and in from Toronto. And thank you so much, Asif, for all of your work in setting this all up. I know there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication, and countless hours in addition to your regular day job. Thank you so much, Asif, for all of your work.
If I may, a word of thanks for Moby. Definitely great host. Great, well done.
I know there's a catch, but thank you, Jim. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for joining us on this segment of Real Talk Canada, coming from the nation's capital, Ottawa, Canada, from the Houses of Parliament in the Commonwealth Room on Parliament Hill. Thank you so much, everybody. And again, our website, it's below me right now, but it's www.mta.tv/realtalk, and our email address is realtalk@mta.tv. Thank you so much again, and I hope you enjoyed this segment of Real Talk Canada with the topic of loyalty to one's homeland. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.